What's going on, family? How is everybody doing? I hope you have your libations. I hope you have been tuned into Oprah. They're talking about a reckoning in Black America. I hope you have been tuned in. It's over on the OWN channels, and it's on YouTube, and it's on all of that. And I want to have a bit of a conversation about it. Don't want to waste too much of your time, but we have to have a conversation. But before we do all of that, please make sure, please make sure that you hit that like button. Please make sure that you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you are not already subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. Please do not forget that the last Thursday in July, that is July the 30th, we will be doing the book club. Right? And this is the book. So please do not forget that. If you have not, you got a while. We still, what is this, June the 10th? Yeah, you got a while. So you still have a while to read this and discuss this, because we're going to have the conversation. I think the conversation this time is going to be 2 nights. Probably Thursday and Friday. If people give me a sign that they're really into the book, because that's what happened kind of the last couple times. So let's do that as well. Do not forget that the 18th, which I think is next week, once a month, remember, we decided to do an all call-in show. So June the 18th, I think that's the third. It's on a Thursday. So we'll have the Monday show, the Wednesday show, and the Thursday show will be just call-ins, people who didn't get to call in. And for the first half hour of that show, maybe let's give a little bit of space, if we can, to people who have not called in, or the first 20 minutes at least, to people who have not had the opportunity to call in before, because the people who call in a lot, y'all got the thing on speed dial or whatever. So so we already know what it is. So please hit that like, please share. If you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com, patreon.com/WaCarnell. I'll probably be sending some shirts out Saturday. I sent some out a week or so ago. So if you didn't get yours, ran out of like the medium hoodies again. So if you didn't get yours, let me know. Somebody already did. I think I emailed you back. Anyway, fam, do all of that. Oh, and go to subscribetobrown.com. I'm going to be making some changes to the newsletter, try to fit some more stuff in and rearrange it and go to a whole nother thing. So please go to subscribetobrown.com, because I have been sending that out for free, although I normally do a $2 subscription or whatever. So please go to subscribetobrown.com to get that, because I feel like in the coronavirus and everything that we're doing, I just been sending it out to the whole list. So please go and do that. That would be wonderful, family. That would be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now listen, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, family. Since we kind of pouring in here, let's have a conversation about it. There are some things going on, and I just want to make sure that we're all clear. This is the second night that Oprah is having this conversation, this kind of, where do we go from here? And it's very interesting to me, because that's also the conversation or the book that we talked about from MLK. Where do we go from here? Right? So it's the same kind of thing. So these are the people involved in the conversation. And I wanted to talk about something that I see happening, because Oprah, she used a word that was kind of, let me make this a little bit smaller, a little bit telling to me. She said something that was very interesting. She said something that I've said a number of times, that this is a reckoning. But you have to understand, just because something is a reckoning, or because it's intended to be a moment of reckoning and coming to terms, that if the people who deserve that reckoning the most and deserve the spoils of that, if they don't do what's necessary in that moment, then what you thought was a reckoning becomes a squandered opportunity. So I think, I saw a lot of people, and shout out to Dr. Sandy Darity, much respect to you. And I saw a lot of people talking about Nicole Hannah-Jones, shouting out reparations and using his name or something of that nature, right? And I want to just make sure that you are clear on who you are. Because in movements like this, I was talking to a friend this morning, and he just kind of brought it home for me. What I was thinking, but what I know is that in this movement, and in movements like this, everybody plays a role. But I kind of feel like some of you, and we're going to come back around to it, I feel like some of you who have been doing work on the ground, you've been doing chapter meetings, you've been talking to your family, right? You've been doing a lot of real work. Right? Shout out to Princess. Shout out to everybody who's been out there and doing work in your space, right? But it's almost as if you value people who haven't done nearly as much work as you, in terms of, I'm talking about Nicole Hannah-Jones right now. And I'm not trying to disrespect what she wrote about or what she's done, but you elevate her in a way that you don't elevate yourself. See, I don't have a problem. When I have a problem with a lot of stuff I see, people need to understand. It's not me having a problem necessarily just for me. I have a problem for the group, because what happens is this group is the gasoline for everything that's going on right now. In the sense of how people understand it, not the man who lost his life, rest in peace, or not Breonna Taylor, rest in peace. and Albert Arbery, rest in peace, right? Like all of these people, the understanding, when I saw that young lady in that viral video talk about wealth and the destruction of wealth, that is something that we anchored, and you cannot diminish who you are, and you cannot diminish your contribution because somebody who was playing their role got mentioned. Yeah, but you got a role. And if you're not saying ADOS, then you ain't saying nothing. Because there is only one grassroots inclusive movement, and that's us. If you don't say ADOS, don't nothing else you say matter. Because you're taking the gasoline from this movement and you're driving it to nowhere. See, that's what I have a problem with, people. I don't have a problem. Listen, fam, I don't have a problem. I really don't. I don't have a problem with somebody deciding to do whatever they want to do. Or people say, well, Yvette, is it just about the credit? No, it's about like this movement is gasoline, and everybody is not, you're not even driving it nowhere. Everybody is taking it and taking the gasoline and driving it to nowhere. I don't think half these people understand it. Like half of these projects, listen, it don't matter like ADOS. There's only one. This is only it. This is it. This is ball game. There's only one grassroots reparations movement, and especially one that's willing to do what we do. Well, what do you mean, Yvette? What do you do? Well, I saw this. David Oyelowo joins Oprah Winfrey's town hall special to talk about police brutality. Now, when you ask what we do that other people don't do, we draw lines. Lines are very important. Boundaries are very important. Everybody else draws boundaries. Everybody else draws boundaries. We draw boundaries and everybody hates us for it. But if you don't draw boundaries and say, listen, you're right. We can fight on the same side of some stuff, but you have to draw a boundary that says, in terms of ADOS, this is an ADOS moment. This is not, he got on when he was talking to Oprah, he started talking about the racism he experienced. He started talking about Great Britain. He started talking about he ain't been here but 15 years. Now listen, I don't have no problem with you specifically. I don't think you should have played MLK. I don't, and not just because of where you come from. You're just not that good. You didn't have no swag. MLK had swag. You lacked the swag factor. So I don't know, Ava. I don't know what you did. Did she do that one? I don't know what you did with him. But let me just say, you have to be willing to tell him that he's not a part of this conversation, because if you make him a part of this conversation, there is no reparations conversation, because this is not just a conversation about race and racism. This is not a conversation, hear me, this is not a conversation about individual incidents of racism. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you exactly why it's not a case of that. So you say, well, people have individual incidents of racism all the time. Well, here's the thing. This was this article somebody brought to me and sent to me. Shout out to Smori for sending this to me. But listen, the many chapters that marked the many chapters marked by racism in George Floyd's family history. That's a family history here. That's a family history here. So what do we have, family? Now they're talking in this, so you know who's talking to. They're talking to his aunt, right? About what happened to the family. We're talking about the man who just died with a knee on his neck. When you look at it, what you find is that knee has always been on that family's neck as ADOS. So what happened to the wealth in the family? Well, this is Floyd's aunt. Her great grandfather, Hillary Thomas Stewart, was a slave. He got his freedom at age 8 and settled near Goldsboro, North Carolina. By age 21, Stewart had accumulated 500 acres of land and married a woman named Larcenia, who would bear him 22 children. Them a lot of children, but you had to work the farm back in them days. You know what it is? In black and white family photos, Stewart poses with his wife in front of a china cabinet full of crockery, wearing a shirt and suspenders. He did the best he could to build a legacy, Harrelson said. But the couple couldn't read or write. White farmers settled their land. They were powerless to fight back. So, white farmers settled their land. They were powerless to fight back. Right? They were powerless to fight back. That is the plunder of American life. I'm not saying nobody else has been plundered, but what you're looking at in that man's life and our life and everybody else's life is a plunder of our life. Right now, sir, we're talking about us. We're not talking about Great Britain. We're not talking about London. We're not talking about, you've been here 15 years. I appreciate that you are supportive, but please get somewhere and sit down. This is not just about what happens to you in the street because you look like us. And we always, like I say here all the time, we stand with you and we will stand with you. But you don't get to speak for me. Just because I stand for you and I support you doesn't mean you get to speak for me. See, if you're going to be in that room, I don't care who you are in that room. Hannah Jones, Darity, anybody. If you're going to be in a room, you got to say ADOS. And if you're going to be in a room, you got to tell him you don't get to talk on this. Excuse me, sir. Because the beauty of this movement, whether anybody realizes it or not, is the unvarnished truth of what we do. We don't go around. Just trying to make friends. Now, we don't try to make enemies. If you get on board with what we're on board with, because what we're on board with is the truth. Why would we get on board with you? And stop with this. Somebody on Twitter today called it the Obama effect. Well, you just got to get so-and-so in the room. That's not the way nothing works. You bust down the room door. You don't wait to get in the room. That's what everybody said about Obama. Well, you just got to let him, Yvette, you hear me? You just got to let him get in there. And don't let him. You got to let him fool the white people. And then when he get in there, he going to do something for us. You got to just let him do. That don't work. You have to bust down the door, and you have to be willing to say what needs to be said. It is not anything xenophobic. It's not anything nasty or to say that you can't speak on this generational plunder. You can't speak on what happened, what I just wrote, what I just read to you about Floyd's family and the history and the sharecroppers. You can't speak on that. You don't need to be here. You need to listen and learn and think about where you are. Because as a Nigerian, that was colonialism. And your people voluntarily immigrated into Great Britain. You are not the descendant of the slaves who were there. Your people came there voluntarily, right? So if that's the case, then you voluntarily immigrated into a racist place and got treated as such. And it's not good for these countries necessarily all the time that you come from, for there's such a brain drain. But that's not the conversation today. The conversation today, though, has to be a focused conversation where everybody in the room says what needs to be said. See, you weren't even saying what needed to be said before now. Like you didn't even understand America was America. I need people to understand America is America. He says, he admits, talking about your boy Oyelowo. He admits to mistakes he's made, such as thinking racism was a thing of the past, and advising his son to not get confrontational with police officers if in a situation with them. Well, I wouldn't get confrontational anyway. But like, that's how, what you're teaching, what you're saying in that moment, that racism was a thing of the past, you're really showing us who you have been. You're really showing us who you have been and how you have been and how you have behaved, how you have moved. Yes, you move very non-confrontationally, and smiled and giggled, and that's how you've moved. Everybody wants to take advantage of the ADOS energy, but ain't nobody got that energy, because everybody wants to take advantage of a freedom struggle and say, y'all have a chip on your shoulder. But if it wasn't for this chip on our shoulder, you wouldn't be here. We paved the way for that. What that means is that we know how to do this. Let us do this. We appreciate your support. Just like we appreciated the ally who called in the last time. We appreciate your support. I will not go to London and tell the Brits how to do the Nigerian Brits how to do their business. I will not go to Nigeria and tell Nigerians how to do their business. Say, I'm just like you. You know, racism, chattel slavery in America left us just like colonialism. No, it's a different structure. Let me do this. And y'all got to let y'all do this too. You got to appreciate what you did. See, we've been doing this. I don't think people understand. As ADOS, we've been doing this, right? Let me pull this up real quick. Everybody ain't I don't know. Everybody ain't built for it, I guess. But the people who are built for it, you got to let them do it. If you ain't built, that's fine. If your ankles ain't right and your calf hurt and you got your big toe got cones or whatever, maybe you stay, I don't know, maybe you stay in house. This is Antonio Moore's piece. If you can't, and he said this in a tweet, if you can't say it straight, you shouldn't say it, period. And this is what he said in the USA Today piece. When it comes to reparations, differences in black lineage matter. Blacks who are the descendants of slaves and black immigrants have divergent histories and levels of wealth. If you can't say that, if you can't make that distinction and take all the daggers that come with it, then you are not built to advocate for a group that comes from slaves. All the daggers are going to come at this group. All of them. You know why? Because when you're a former slave group, people expect you to be docile. People expect you to be neutered and defanged. You ain't got no sharp teeth. So people expect that. You can't give that. When you get in that room, you got to call it straight. You got to play it straight. What Antonio look like in USA Today call him, and he does an article, and he called him and try to do it. What did he look like just saying, well, you know, everybody has and black and brown people, and I mean, what would that look like? To me, it would look like a sellout. You can't sell out. And it doesn't do any good to get in the room and just say, well, I said reparations. I said it. I said it. When people ask you who it goes to, and then you can't call us one note. Well, y'all just a one note group. Listen, this is the note that matters. You playing the wrong note. You playing the wrong keys. What is it? What does it matter to be one note if your note is the only note that matters? It's central to all the other notes. This is the note. You can't say you're fighting for reparations and then tomorrow turn around and say, well, you know, there's other stuff we got to think about. No, stand here and fight. Can you do that? Is that possible? It's just a question I have. Because I know the answer to, like, where do we go from here and what the reckoning is reparations. But it's so divisive. Shouldn't be divisive. It makes perfect sense. If you're not a descendant of slaves in this country, I don't understand why you would think that you would get something. It doesn't make sense. And it's just like it doesn't make sense to use black and brown. We've been talking about the coronavirus. And let me just put this up really quick, just so we can understand how this thing is, how we're being conned here in terms of, well, it's all kinds of, it's impacting. I just want to bring it up as an example. I know it seems off topic, but this goes key to the, like, this is key to, like, that the con. This is key to it. This is so key to it. I want you to pay attention to that. I want you to pay close attention to that chart and see what you're looking at. Now you see that. I think Reggie sent this to me. Shout out to Reggie. If you see this green, that's black. So they say, well, black and brown communities are disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 deaths. No. There's one line that just strikes out, and that line is the green line right there, the darker green line, and that's black folk. Can we just talk about that? Why do we have to talk about black and brown? Look at this. Look at the Latino line. The Latino line is very close to the white line. What are y'all talking about? What is everybody talking about? How is everybody so accepting of like not being able to have a conversation about who we are and what we've contributed and what we're owed? We can't do that. And let me just say, it's not, for some people, I think reparations might be sort of theoretical, right? Because and people start talking about what they gonna buy. So if you maybe had a good life, or you still got a good life and you living a good life, maybe you just think about it in theory. But let me tell you, with this COVID especially, all that stuff done ramped up. So reparations isn't like, it's got to be multi-generational, because that's how it happens. You just can't give wealth to one generation. You have to, I've always said on this show that it takes much longer to heal a wound than it takes to inflict a wound. And if you think about a wound being inflicted on this group for 400 years, how long do you think it takes to heal that wound? It's a multi-generational process. But even if you think about it in terms of one payout, the first payout, the initial payout, you can't even start thinking about, well, what I'm going to buy. You can't even start thinking about that, because the issue is you are just buying your life. See, right now your life is a rickety life, and it stands on little stilts and little press wood and pine wood, and it got termites in the base, in the foundation. You need that money to shore up your life that you have now and make it a real life. Then you have to pass down some generational wealth, and at some point maybe get there. That's when you want to talk about literacy. You want to make it grow. You need some therapy too. We got to have a health component. It's a lot of stuff that has to go with that. But you're buying your life. Reparations is buying the life that you already have. And when you think about the land that was stolen, when you think about George Floyd's ancestry, when you think about that, you have to think about what would have and could have been. When you think about what would have and could have been, you have to understand that reparations is not about equality. And this is what makes it so divisive. It's making us the owners that we always should have been. That farm, those 500 acres and whatever was planted on them or whatever, that should have been passed down to this man. That's the thing that keeps the police away from you, because the police are given the right to use lethal weapons to protect property and wealth. And we're a wealthless group. Now, I'm not saying it's right, nothing that they did. I'm not saying that. I believe that you need police reform regardless. But what I'm saying, that man is not on the ground with a knee in his neck had it not been for white plunder. You can bet on that, because let me tell you, people with money and wealth, they don't be unemployed, or they don't work. If they are unemployed, what does it matter? I have wealth. They have your own farm. You could be doing the farm distribution, doing whatever. That stuff was supposed to be passed down. We were not protected by the we didn't get the loans. All the stuff we already know. Our land got stolen. We know. We've talked about all of this. On the show, it was very interesting on the Oprah thing. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms brought up like her pictures of like her her ancestors from slavery and so on. Right? She brought him up. But I think that's one thing. But I think the other thing is, you can't bring them up and then at the end of the show talk about 9 things you can do. You can call your city council and you can do what that's stuff for people who haven't been plundered. You have to, and maybe you made it, you're mayor, maybe you don't think much about it. You have to make these people whole, and you do that by making us whole. I don't think we understand this moment. And I don't think we understand that there's a debt here and everybody needs to get around reparations. Now is not the time for a conversation. I don't want another conversation. I'm not interested. Because if you really want to have a conversation, you have to understand what has to happen. This is not a moment for for white people to understand some things. Well, we gotta just get white people to understand some things. This is not that moment. Oprah's right. It is a reckoning, Oprah, but it's not the moment that you think it is. It's a reckoning for you too, Oprah, to understand what you did and the role you played. I remember you had a show with that woman who be on Fox News all the time, talking about nobody should get welfare, and she done had a bunch of abortions, some she said. Remember that y'all know that black lady that used to be running around all the time talking about welfare was awful. I remember Oprah did a show one time asking her mostly white audience if people should taxpayers feel mad about women who are on welfare at home eating bonbons. Own your stuff too, Oprah. Like, if we're going to have a reckoning, let's have a real reckoning right here and now about the role everybody played, because you played your role too. Oprah, you went into the living room of a bunch of white women every day for 20 years and we still here. Now, maybe you can say, well, I had to do that to have a show. Well, maybe you shouldn't have a show if that was the price, if that was the cost of it. Maybe you don't get a show if that's the price. Maybe Bob Johnson don't get BET if the price is you just have to put booty shake on all the time. Maybe that's it. And people want to tell me, well, Yvette, he said something about reparations. So I don't know. You just want to be divisive. He said something about reparations. I don't know why you act like that. The man said something. He did something. First problem is he got the numbers wrong, got the people wrong. But the second problem is this. See, this is what you don't need. Let me bring this up for you. So he posted this. Reparations. Choose from the following: cancel cops and gone with the wind, your feet washed by whites, politicos in kente cloth, celeb brand Twitter apology contest, or 14 trillion in cash owed to your ancestors and you. Which do you prefer? It sounds right? You think that sounds good? Now I don't know why he's tagging all the people he tagging. That's interesting. Sean King, Charlemagne. Okay. So somebody comes into the thread right behind him. Somebody comes into the thread right behind him. There are systems in place that will benefit AA more than reparations. Systems that help folk like you. Now is the time to support others and teach them how to benefit from those systems. Leila Jansi said. Now, here is the time to tell her to get in the corner and be quiet. Why? Hold on. Let me show you why. Leila was born Leila Afua Jansi in 1981. Her father was a pilot and her mother a senior nursing officer. She grew up in India and Ghana. Although acting and writing were her hobbies, her career ambition was to become a gynecologist, a plan which later changed when she developed an interest in forensics. Right? She met a Ghanaian actor, and the rest is history. So, but why are you talking to me about my business? This is not your business. Now's the time. This is the moment, ladies and gentlemen, to come and tell her you're a black billionaire. Hold on, let me just come out here and say, what's the point of being a black billionaire if you can't talk your stuff? Like I see a bunch of people get money and don't never get no power, can't never talk no kind of way, just throw a little bit of shade. So what you think he gonna say? He just said all of that. So what you think he gonna say? You got all this money, right? So what he gonna say? Now you know what you gotta say. The whole point. ADOS says it straight. You don't get to make any kind of calls here. We say it. That's how we say it. Here's what he said. Love to hear your ideas and glad you support some form of reparations. No, she didn't say nothing like that. That's not what she said. What you was reading. She said there are systems. Let's go back. You said what? She said there are systems in place that will benefit AA more than reparations. That What was he reading? She said there are systems in place, and you said, what? That will benefit AA more than reparations. She chimed in on something she shouldn't have chimed in on, and she didn't say anything about supporting some form of reparations. By the way, I'm pleased. UMC Network I created and financed supported you and aired your show. Now he was trying to throw a little shade there, but you don't throw a little shade as a billionaire. How am I talking tougher than a billionaire? No, you don't get to talk. This is not your lane. You had a pilot and all kind of stuff and a nurse. No, your life is not my life. You don't get a call here. You don't get a vote. As a matter of fact, if I'm honest with you, like you were able to immigrate into a country that ADOS had already fought for, that we had laid the groundwork for. We looked like we walked so you could run. I don't know. But this is what I'm saying. I don't think, see, if you can't, there's no way to be in the front of a reparations movement. If you can't tell somebody else, you're going to have to be divisive because there are boundaries. It just is what it is. It's not my fault. These are boundaries that come from lineage. Because our lineage is what ties us to the poverty from slavery and sharecropping and Jim Crow. That's a lineage-based argument. That's not a melanin-based argument. And if you can't say that with your full chest to an actress I ain't never heard of, then what can you do? I would have said it to her, and I'm not you. What kind of grown people have we built? What kind of men and women have we built that can't say what needs to be said to this little woman over here? What kind of relationship are you trying to protect that you can't be full-throated? And if you can't be full-throated about it, why are you here? See, this is what I mean when I'm critical of people. I know you don't have it. You don't got it. And so if you don't see what I see, then it's easy for you to say, well, Yvette is just being divisive. Yvette. No, I see it. I see him. And I don't know what the play is here. And I don't know what play you're trying to get in front of. Because a lot of times what people try to do is just get in front of a play they see moving. I don't know. A lot of people are trying to get in front of the energy that y'all built. I'm not on the ground in Chicago. I'm not in Maryland. I'm not all these chapters. Even here in Georgia, Gwinnett, Princess Six. Everybody's doing all this stuff, and then you celebrating other people who aren't doing half of what you're doing. They aren't causing division. They're dividing themselves from people we already been divided from. So what if you divide yourself from white supremacists? They were never on the team, no way. What kind of conversation are we having? Fighting flat-footed. You off your square and flat-footed. Fighting in a line. Somebody can just push you right down. Look up. That's why you fight on the square. These people just haven't. See, if y'all aren't careful, and if we aren't careful, I include myself in this, we're going to just end up having another conversation about reparations. And we haven't even asked this woman that you was talking about, did your people sell slaves? Like if you could ask him too, why are you crying? That's nice. But we're talking about lineage and not melanin. Did y'all's people sell us over here? Because if you sold us over here and then came over here, we should treat you just like the people who bought us. If somebody sells us and somebody bought us, then you get treated the same. Now I'm just saying you making me beg that question now. Were you from the poor people? Because we know in Nigeria, they got the poor and they got these elite. And the elites are the one who normally end up from Africa. I'm not talking about the slave. Are the one who normally end up in London. Now, which one is you? Because you don't sound like you're from the slave peoples. But if I ask that question, I'm divisive. But it's not divisive to have him on that panel. There's no way to do it. There's no way to do it. There's no other way to do it. Let me just bring a couple more things up too. Because this was her. The one who was saying all the stuff about, it's other systems. It's other systems. And I don't have a problem. Let me just say this too. I'm very happy with the allies. The allies who called, the one who called on Monday, the allies in the chat. Listen, an ally told me in the Twitter today because we was talking about, let me get to this other thing we were talking about. We was talking about, since we're talking about this and allies, well, let me just talk about the Harper's Bazaar. They said they have the first ever black editor, which goes along with you have to be divisive. Didn't I say you have to be divisive? There's no other way to do it. An ally who was from, because this person is from Canada. I grew up in Canada, but she's Trinidadian and Lebanese. It was an ally in the thread that told me, like, a lot of them people identify as white. I wouldn't have never known that. I ain't never been there. There's a lot of secrets that are being kept out here in these streets. It's a lot of, the diaspora got a lot of secrets. Diaspora is full of secrets. But the reason I say you have to be divisive, what did this woman, see, you have to be divisive because there's no reason for them to call her the first black. Well, what do you mean, Yvette? That's just divisive. No. When we talk about, and these are the conversations that everybody else won't have, but these are the conversations that you're going to have reparations, because you have to talk about and discuss the importance of lineage and what gets in the way of us seeing the cost of that lineage. See, we don't see the cost of Adolf's failure because there are other brown people succeeding, and that's all white people see. And you have to have that conversation. And you have to move white people to eventually give up whiteness. But what you have to do is you have to slow down and have that conversation. Listen, this person's not the first anything. Well, what do you mean? When we talk about the first this or the first that, that's why we never should have called Obama the first black president, because we understand black to mean Adolf. We should have been distinct. He's the first president. He's a black president, but we should have been very specific that he's not Adolf. He's black. You're not Adolf, and that's why you're president. That's why you're in that position. Because for her to be in Canada and from Trinidad and the Lebanese and Trinidad ancestry, that's not how we do first. First is to show that, like, look at these black people are doing better. That's for us to say, look, we got a this, we got a that. We doing things out here. That's what it means. It's we. We came from slavery and now we're an editor. We came from slavery and now we're a president. We came from slavery and now we're a CEO. We came from slavery and now we're this. That's the importance when we say first. That's what first is supposed to mean. If you just give it to somebody who lived a whole different life and a whole different lineage and who didn't bear the cost, then it doesn't matter that you become what you've become. It doesn't matter that you are the editor of whatever. It doesn't matter because you don't share the cost with us. You might as well, you could be a Chinese editor, you could be a Salvadorian, El Salvadorian, you could be a Honduran. It wouldn't matter. That doesn't matter, because when we say first, we're talking about a very specific cost. A very, very, very specific cost. And that is not a cost that you bore. You're bearing the fruits, but you didn't pay the cost. You didn't. And your life doesn't reflect the life of like Adolf's. This is not an Adolf's life in terms of your adoption. And so this is not an Adolf's life. Right? So we have to be very specific. And so I don't mean to be, it's not divisiveness. Like, there are already divisions in terms of who gets reparations. And we have to stand on that square together as one unit, or it doesn't matter. Or you squander this whole moment. Oh, it's just over with. That's it. You have to be anchored in it. Right? We all have to be anchored in it. And that's not divisive, but that's just telling Oprah, you had your thing. Everybody was talking. Charles Blow actually said the best quote, right? Charles Blow said this is about power, and he's right. And I think he came out in favor of reparations a while ago. He actually said the best part of it. This is about power. He's exactly right. Oprah had it set up to where people just talk one. It was only everybody got to talk one time, and it wasn't really a conversation. It wasn't really a back and forth. But that's just what it is. Oprah, this is what it is. We got your answer. We got your answer, Oprah. It's reparations. Where do we go from here? Reparations. We never had economic inclusion. And this is not reparations. Using this woman who is not ADOS to sell magazines is not reparations. Saying we should have a conversation about reparations is not reparations. You have to start getting on these panels, everybody, and just saying, when they say, what do we need? Reparations. And this is how. And this is why. It's not hard. It's not complex. It's not cumbersome. It's one answer. But see, nobody likes that one answer, because when you ask that answer, what happens is you might not get to the next step. If you ask that, if you say that, then maybe Oprah don't invite you back. Well, it don't matter no way. Because if she don't invite you back, it don't matter no way, because ain't nobody that's saying what needs to be said. So what? I don't think we really understand that. I don't think we understand the role we play, or none of that. That's kind of why they say, like in this thing, like the 150-year-old publication has the first black editor. They're going back, when they say that, they're going back to like the end of slavery. And like we've been around since way back then. And we finally have a black editor. No, you don't have an ADOS. So ADOS didn't go anywhere. You found somebody who looked like us and put them on the cover. And that's supposed to be your Black Lives Matter, since everybody wants to use that term, which isn't really an org. We talked about that last time. So everybody wants to act like, well, Harper's is really doing the thing. They have really come through in terms of inclusion. Of who? Yes, they have really come through in terms of Trinidadian Lebanese. They have really, really come through. And we don't even know who is what. The relationship between India and Trinidad and Tobago started on 30th of May, 1845, when the first ship, Fatso Razak, to bring 205 individual laborers from India. Today, 42% of Trinidad's and Tobago's population are of either full or partial Indian descent. We don't know what you is. You might not even be, you might forget being ADOS. You might not even be black. But this is the moment where everybody's just talking about Crayola. This is the Crayola moment. So everybody's want to talk about Crayola. Ain't they? Crayola. What do you do? We got to talk about the black and the brown inclusion. We got to talk about inclusion. Inclusion. We got to talk about the Crayola. Where you included a brown person. You've included an eggshell person. What's that color? Probably like my knee or something. What's it? A crew? It's the beige coalition. It's the brown coalition. It's the dark chocolate coalition. No, ain't nobody. It's the pecan or pecan coalition. Honey drop coalition. No, this has to be based on lineage. And people are gonna say we're divisive, and people are gonna say, whatever they want to say. But this is the only way. Listen, go back. If you think we're divisive, people always want to talk about, a lot of people who call us divisive want to quote Malcolm X. And I've always said, or Martin Luther King, and I've always said before that you have to build. You can't just mimic these people and parrot these people. You have to come up with your own stuff. Every generation comes up with its own stuff. You build off the last generation. But do you think when King was calling for what he was calling for, and they so much so that they killed him for it, do you think that and people say, well, he tried to, at the end of his life, include white people? Yes, because he had some kind of faith in that kind of inclusion. It just hasn't worked out for us. We have white allies. I see them on the street. They're on the street getting beat up. But the question is not whether or not you're going to be on the street. White people, if you're watching this, listen to me very closely. Before I go to break, listen to me. If you're going to stand with us, it's not about whether or not you will go out on a protest and go back home. It's not about whether you took a rubber bullet to your navel button. It's not about that. We appreciate that. But are you willing to give up whiteness? That thing you walk around with, that means you have wealth that's passed down to you. Granny left you something. You have a network. You can walk around and have some kind of social capital. Are you willing to give that up? That's the question. See, that's what you got to ask white people. Not whether they're willing to change and do police reform, or whether they're willing to hold officers accountable or stop police. No, are you willing to give up this thing that makes you special and elevate ADOS to what we should have been in the first place? Are you willing to do that? Because that is the test of whether you are a real ally or not. So at that, fam, I'm going to leave it at that. And then we're going to take a break. And y'all can tell me if some of y'all watched the Oprah thing. If some of y'all watched it, because I know it was on. It came on at 9. I don't know what time it went off. So let me know what you thought. If you saw any of it. If you saw any of it yesterday, let me know as well. I think it was on last night. I watched the one, but I'm not sure what it was on. What I clicked on was yesterday or the day before. So anyway, let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Some of your insights and some of the, like I said, I thought the best moment was Charles Blow about what power, like this is about power. Like stop talking about it in some kind of minimalized way. But anyway, I'm gonna go to break. We'll come back and we're gonna have a conversation. What's up, family? We are back. We are back. We are back. And we're going to go straight into the phones. Straight on into the phones. Straight on into the phones. So, hold on 1 second. Let me get something up. All right, fam. Let me see what I am going to first. I'm going to 832. 832, what is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how you doing this evening?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm okay. This is James, and I am a Sierra Leonean American, first generation.
Okay.
And yes, I am an ally. And I just kind of, I just recently saw. I'm not sure if you saw this. There's a Netflix thing, and they touched on the Amadou Diallo situation.
Mm-hmm.
And and the reason why I bring that up is because, like, there was a scene where the mother came to the country, and she, began crying because, she lost her son,
mm-hmm.
or whatever. And it touched me because, prior to that, like, people don't understand when you say this lineage thing, but prior to that, I didn't really cry at the deaths of other Black people. But when I saw that lady, she's an African immigrant, or she's African herself, and that's the first time I really, like, sat there and almost cried off of that. And, like, I just kind of wanted to base that there because I had this argument with other people about, other Africans are bringing up, well, what about Amadou Diallo? You have to understand that was a unicorn situation. I mean, yes, he is Black, and yes, the police mistaken him for being Black, but that happened, and it's very rarely that happens to our people from the African continent. But I just kind of wanted to touch on the.
Let me just say this, and we stood with him. Like, the thing is, it's not like it's not like we said, well, he's not Adolf, so we're not gonna stand with him. Like, I think people don't understand. Like, we are here for you. What we're saying is that in terms of the thing that they say, they think who you are is one of us. Like, the thing that makes us whole is reparations, and nobody's saying that. Like, everybody. That's why we know his name, because of how everybody in New York, because New York is diverse. We stood with him, and we always do that. Whether it's Bottom Jean, whether it's him, we always stand. But I think you can't just make it. I think you're right though. You can't just make it about him. It's really about what we're anchored in, and how that anchoring. How that us being anchored in slavery and oppression and all of that manifests in our life, and you get caught up in it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. No, I just say all that to say this. Like, I believe that as Black Americans, those that built this country, that my parents migrated to, are not just perceived as a protected class, but have policies in place to protect them. Better training of police, restrictions on chokeholds, etc. None of that would even matter. I read this article after you talked about the spotted owl. I did some research on. I did some research, and let me just read this real quick, and then I'm done. All right. It says, since the 1990s, the timber industry has had to account for how it will protect the spotted owl in its harvest plans, meaning several of its projects have been denied by various public agencies for risk of further endangering the threatened bird. Like, just take that into consideration as to how industry has to be made accountable for any action they make toward the spotted owl.
Yeah. I want you to think about this, fam. Nobody has taken into account this nuclear plant that you're gonna put around a bunch of Black people is gonna have a bad impact on the Negro. You have to think about the spotted owl, but you don't have to think about what you're doing and how we are the garbage disposal. I don't think people understand that owl gets more protection than we do. We don't get no protection. And instead of getting protection, we are made to be the bottom and eat the trash. Now they want the owl to live and flourish and fly and and do whatever he do. No, that's not gonna work.
Yep. So yeah, that was it for me. I appreciate your show.
Thank you, fam.
I used to call when I was studying mechanical engineering. I finally finished, and
congratulations!
I unfortunately suffered.
You did what?
Thank you. And I actually suffered through this pandemic as far as layoff. Layoff, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens in the future, and you have a good night.
Okay, thank you, fam. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm happy you finished. Your mechanical engineering and got that taken care of. But I'm happy to hear. But everybody been hit with this thing, boy. Woo-wee. This doggone coronavirus. I was listening to a podcast there. They said this thing might be with us for a long, 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 long time. They said we've only gotten rid of eliminated one, even though we have vaccines for other stuff. Said we only eliminated one. And I got to look that up. I was listening to a podcast this morning. Washington Post podcast if you want to know what I was listening to. Anyway, I'm going to 310. What's going on?
What up, y'all? I'm going to keep it brief. I sent you an image to pull up when I get to Bob Johnson, but if you pull the USA Today up right now, this Tone Talk. So much of this is just, like, illogical when you really look at it. For Adolf's people, for American descendants of slavery. Again, we talk about the institution of slavery, so stop saying enslaved and all that. Because I get random messages sometimes from people, and they'll say, well, what should I be doing? And I just need you to teach your mama about Adolf. So I don't know how you're going to do it, but you got to figure that out. You don't figure that out, y'all finish together. I'm just telling you, economically. So, like, I don't need you at Al Sharpton's march. I don't need you to support it. Look, let me give you a baseline thing for everybody just to have as they go out into the web. If somebody ain't using Adolf hashtag and pushing the line for Adolf, that should let you know whether you should be supporting them. Period. Whoever it is. It's not just about, like, this term. It's about the reality that you're going to have to stand up. You're going to have to stand up for more than reparations. You're going to have to deal with how immigration is adverse in many spaces with this whole push for reparations. You're going to have to deal with how Dr. King might not have seen this because he was talking about equality. He was talking about a time before he understood immigration because they hadn't really immigrated that many black immigrants. You got to read the book to understand that. Chapter 1 of the book for the book club will explain that to you. And I say all this because we live in our country that we built. And people will use these awful arguments while calling themselves their country name. So it's not like people come into this place and just say, I'm Black American. And everybody's saying that, and we saying, it's been 100 years, and all of a sudden we're saying, no, you're not really Black American because you missed the first 200 years. We all been together here for 100 years. No, they specifically call themselves divisive. Every name they use is divisive because it's a division. It's a clear division, and it's a respectable division. I am Jamaican American. I am Nigerian American. Now, where it gets interesting, follow me, is when you look into what it means beyond just the positive projection. So when you tell me I'm Nigerian Igbo, I respect the fact that you come from a tribe. You might be elite in that tribe. You know where you come from. You know the language. But when I dig into it and I find out about being freeborn, I can't bring that up to this divisive. When I find out that that they got Ohu, Diala, and Osu, and Ohu and Osu are the slaves, and they would never be here in America, and ask you, are you Diali or freeborn? I'm divisive. None of it works this way. I wrote this article in USA Today. It was in response to a professor that didn't make a lot of sense. They don't know what to do with me. They don't know what to do with Yvette, and they don't know what to do with you. You got the Indian NAACP. They trying to do chicken sandwiches or DACA stuff, and y'all done mess their stuff up, so they hide meat in somebody's head. They won't let y'all know the subcommittees or whatever. I'm not sure how that's going, but a shout out to y'all if that's the case, because they need to be held accountable. But at the end of the day, accountable might not be enough, because what you need is right now. See, and I say this to you because I'm looking at this whole thing, and Sharpton doing this march. I want to know, maybe y'all can start asking Sharpton every time he posts, are you going to pay for the medical coverage if people get COVID at your march? Make it that simple. I don't want no other question. If you get on this podcast, I don't care, whoever, because sometimes y'all get on, ask him, are you going to pay for the medical coverage for the ADOS people that don't have medicine that come to here because you told them to and get coronavirus? I just want to know. You got Mark Morial. He at the hearing today, but where was he when the Civil Rights Act of 1866 happened? He was siding with Comcast, making it hard for the Urban League to represent the Civil Rights Act of 1866. But Yvette said earlier, ain't nothing but what Byron said. This is on the Weather Channel, you're billionaire. He said specifically that y'all are locked out, but if you had wealth, and we talking about a gap that Darity talked about of 800,000. We're talking about the average. Average white people love to take out their rich people and give you that median. But the average white person, white family has $1 million. The average black family is 100,000. Average. That's an $800,000 gap. But you want everything they have already. The only way you fill that gap up is reparations. But you already picked up the 2 kids, the husband, and the house, so you already bought the stuff like you already was coming. Reparations was coming, it's just waiting for it to clear up. I don't know what you're going to do to make that all work. I looked over at the Bob Johnson thing, and I had to teach somebody, and I shout out him, if he listens. I had to teach somebody that Bob Johnson, I don't know. Look, ain't nobody checking on this dude. Stop it. You know, his little Breakfast Club, when I looked at it, 40,000 views. Rush Limbaugh had 600,000, and he had 40,000. So, Bob Johnson put out this thing, and y'all shouted it out and ran around, and I didn't say nothing. I don't just be speaking. This man don't know what he's talking about. He didn't create no energy. He ain't got no chapters. He's like Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton got all them little non-things, but when you go, it'd be a P.O. box or it'd be one man. Look, this man has no following. You said he's a billionaire. Okay, I'll accept that. He sold BET. I never done for it. But his numbers don't add up. What you mean, Tone? What are you saying, Tone? So in his numbers, he said what, Bet? He said 357 a person, right? He said 357 a person. Sounds good, right? Sounds good. I don't plan for black people individually with where we're at just to be getting 357,000 a person as the answer for a legacy of slavery. I want reparations, which is a repairing of economic soul of America. That ain't it. But hold on. Let me go to the numbers. So what's wrong? He said 357 a person. Well, he also said 42 million African Americans. There aren't 42 African Americans in America. There are 32 million African Americans and 10 million black immigrants from different countries. So what he's doing is giving every black immigrant, the ones from the Caribbean that still have CARICOM and have their homes in Jamaica, the ones from Nigeria that may have sold slaves, the ones from Somalia on the other side that have nothing to do with none of this. He's giving all of them the same thing your family gets after going through slavery and Jim Crow for a reparations plan for slavery and Jim Crow. What do you think would have happened, Vet? Now, I'm gonna just ask you. If George Floyd would have applied for the asylum program that is set up for some reason in Minneapolis for Somalians that came as a side, what would have happened? Would he have been accepted?
Rejected, and everybody would have said why. He would have got laughed at. What you doing here?
I'm just saying to you, as I look at this thing, I'm going to end out. You have a man that either got it wrong or don't know what he's talking about. Either way, I don't need him speaking for me. There are not 42 million people that will receive this. There are 32 million. And those 32 million will not receive a lump sum of $350,000. You sound ignorant. This is a massive multi-generational project. You cannot bring to Congress a plan that says we're going to give each black person in America $350,000 and expect anything to get passed. That is a sign of blatant just ignorance about politics. I don't know what y'all doing, but y'all better get it right because y'all can't look at everybody who comes out and is on TV and think they important. Oprah's show don't matter. The reason we know it don't matter is because wasn't nobody watching her sitting next to that hot TV screen. I'm just saying this to you as I close out. I appreciate the time. Let's get out of here.
Appreciate it, Tone, as always. Oh, they gotta get the numbers. Tone got that data. It's true. Ain't no lie to it. I wish it was a lie, but ain't no lie. 334. I'm coming to you. 334. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Can I be heard?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. This is Keith calling from Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
I'm calling in because you said, did anybody listen to what Oprah did today and yesterday?
Absolutely.
I listened to both parts.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't really impressed by any of it. It sounded like the stuff that I already knew. And it seemed like if they're really serious about it, they probably would have needed like a few more episodes to hash out some of the steps of like what do we need to do, like just from the generalized information of like getting white allies to understand what racism is or whatever.
It's 400 years.
Yeah, that's my takeaway from it.
Let me ask you: Did they have a call to action? I was on, so I didn't get to see today's. Did they have a call to action? Excuse me.
If you want to call a call to action, like, to me, to be honest with you, not really demanding any politicians or anything. Not really like any organization of boots on the ground or anything like that. Well, they did say something about like vote down ballot, but that was very brief. But really, I didn't really hear too much. That sounded like, hey, we need to get like a collective group and actually like these specific things that affect us, you know, specifically. Let's organize around that. Mm-hmm. Not too much of that.
All right. So, yeah. Well, that don't sound like a lot, friend. Fam, that don't sound like a lot. That's all I'm gonna say.
You be easy now.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching it, so we wouldn't necessarily have to. I saw part one though, in its entirety. Okay. So, you know, if anybody else saw it, call in. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. If anybody else saw it, call in. Let me know what you thought. If you saw part of it, or a little bit, or itty bitty bit, or whatever you saw, I sure would. I want to know. You know, because some stuff, like, I'm not saying everything was wrong, but some of the stuff, like, we're past the moment of like talking about. And I think, you know, to her credit, I think Ava DuVernay kind of said that, like, she used to seem kind of fed up. But like, once you're fed up, you have to say, okay. You know, we all have to say collectively, like, this, okay, this is it. This is what has to happen. This is the moment for this. And everybody has to say it. Like, that should have been the reckoning. Reparations in America. It should have been that. And there have to be people who have represented this movement in that room. Because we're the only ones who are going to keep it honest. That's obvious. So, I'm going now to 405. 405, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette.
Hey.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing well. I have so much to say, okay. But I really appreciate the ADOS movement. I was born in Montgomery. My dad's from Baton Rouge, and I'm south all the way, and we've always been, in my kind of culture, deemed, and I think that's what they're doing. I've been saying for a while, they're trying to replace us. And I don't agree with the allies being where I'm from. It's never worked for us. I think all of this that's going on is a lot of charades. I think it's a political charade. We're not voting till November. And I think they just started it a little too early. And I think we all need to be aware of that. In reparations for that, it's a legislative law. When it comes to Martin Luther King and all the riots and the marches, we took them to the White House to write laws, to change laws. Civil rights laws. My grandma was in the boycott, and that boycott is a big pivotal point in my family, and that's important. We got laws changed. It wasn't about just tearing stuff up and doing anything. It was about reading books, writing laws, and I think that should be very important in what we're doing and pushing this on our youth instead of having them riot.
But let me just say this. Let me just say this, fam. There were riots back then. As well, but what I would say is I think it is about writing laws, but I think it has to be about writing laws that matter, right? And what I kind of see, because you know what I kind of see or saw then, like when there was a riot, like I said last time, you know, King was able to come out and say this is what happened, and so people knew if we got to deal with King or we got to deal with the riots or we got to deal with Malcolm. We don't want to deal with Malcolm. So you have to, you want to deal with that. That's a bad man. So it's just kind of like, what I saw was just like there was nobody with like.
But I think he gets a bad name too. Malcolm was a classy man.
I mean a bad man. Like that mug was. I mean it in a positive way. So when I say he was a bad man, I mean, hey, he ain't playing with you. And if you don't deal with King, you're gonna have to deal with him. And I think they kind of played that. What I don't see is like, I feel like this whole, and I'm not saying that I disagree with all aspects of what they're talking about in terms of reform, but I feel like after this happened, there was no leadership in terms of like people always try to box us out. So nobody's gonna let us get there. But even in terms of any other leadership to talk about what was needed. So the only thing that came out was like, well, just get rid of the police, right? And I feel like that speaks to like the space that Black Lives Matters was supposed to be in, and what they were supposed to do, and how they were supposed to anchor themselves and be leaders, and instead they became like these intersectional props. And I think this is a moment to realize that, like, that's not leadership.
Black Lives Matter is a distraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're a distraction, and they're hurting our community. And I hope we're waking up and seeing what is going on. As for the Democrats, we have to wake up. I just woke up. I feel like me and Brock just broke up. You know, there's some things that's out there, some things going on in the news, the media, the politics, going to. These are facts. These are facts, and we have to wake up. Because we can't live like this. We cannot live in chaos.
No, but we can't live with no wealth. You can't live in the rich country.
And ADOS, I think we are. The Nigerian that called in the other day, I've never called in. I've been shy to call in, but she is the reason I think I'm calling in tonight. And I think they are out of line.
Well, see,
I worked with a Nigerian woman at a radio station, and she to my face told me I'm dispensable at a black radio station in my black neighborhood. She told me I'm. So
well,
that's
I don't think that's an ally. Anybody who would tell you there's an ally. But see, what happens is you have a whole group of people that have allowed to. We have never really kind of said full-throatedly, listen. Like, we never said what the ally said on Monday ourselves. Like, she spoke more truth to people than we speak to them. Like, she will speak more when she talked about the Palestinian. We don't even say that to people. We should be the ones saying you don't get to use our stuff. Like, she says that as an ally to them, the stuff that we won't even say. See, I think somewhere along the lines, we have to own the fact that we've lost our courage. And I don't know where it went or how, but we better pick it up.
I think they're courageous when they're in our circle, though.
No, I'm not talking about, so the thing is,
you know, when they're with us, they have everything to say about how they defend us with them. But when they're at home with their parents,
but I don't think
about Americans. They call us lost.
But let me just say this. Let me just say this.
Every other
let me just say this. We know that. We know that.
About how we talk.
Yeah, okay, I got that. We all know that. But what I'm talking about here, the people who tell you how they talk at home are the allies. Like, the people who she don't got to tell you that. What? Yeah. She don't gotta tell you that. She could talk about you with them and keep it moving. She don't gotta tell us nothing. She don't got, like, the Trinidadian who said she ain't gotta tell me that, like, this person might claim white. I would never know that. Let me tell you, the best stuff, the best inside info has come from them. Like, in terms of, like, what really happens in a lot of these circles and a lot of these diasporas. Those are the ones you want. The person who told you that you're dispensable is not an ally. Like, that's not an ally. That's an enemy. That's not an ally.
Yeah, but I don't know. And for Oprah and the elitists, they're elitists, and I think there are a lot of tokens, and they're in position, and a token is never real. They'll never do anything real for us. They're tokens. They get in circles, and their whole goal is to be that, and to never disperse it, to never integrate it. I'm just having problems, Yvette, and hopefully watching your show to work with me. Because Black Lives Matter, I think that's the whole LGBT community breaking up the black man and the black woman and our families. And my parents are still together. My grandparents were together. I'm from Wilkinson County. We were a black county. You know what I mean? We ran our county. I live in Oklahoma. We have major cities in Oklahoma, over 17, 20 black grand cities, including Black Wall Street. That was one of 17 to 20 black cities that we ran. So I think that they come in and they exploit us. They make us just the ghetto. They make us just hip hop. They have really just intertwined us, and it just, you see it with everything. It's just hurting to see it, because we're not just the gay community. We're not just exploited like that. We're not just hip hop like that. Our HBCUs, our fraternities, our sororities, our black senators. I mean, we've been doing this. I mean, from 1920, they came in and took it from us. We had our land. My grandfather was the biggest bootlegger in the county. We could have been Seagram's Gin. We could have been Hennessy.
Absolutely.
But through the Civil War and everything, they came and took our stuff. The Yankees just took our land. So now we're looking poor, and they're looking like, what do you need reparations? I want reparations for my grandfather. I want reparations for the business that we could have built that could have been a multi-million-dollar business today. I don't even want to drink anymore when I heard that story about my great-grandfather. So it's just a lot that's going on, and it's people like me, and I just appreciate your show. And
thank you.
I just appreciate that you guys are ADOS.
Thank you.
You know, we're out here, and my family's out here, and we're together, and we're educated, and we own houses, and we own businesses, and we're not working for the man. We're not renting from the man. We are out here. We're educated, and we're watching you, and we love you. And
thank you, fam.
just
I appreciate
wanted to call and let you know.
No, that's fine. Everybody, people get nervous. It's fine. Thank you for calling in. No, I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate it. It happens. But yeah, I think somewhere along the line some stuff got lost, and like, if you have this organization where you're taking in millions of dollars, we're not talking about a 5 or a 10 or 50 here, like Black Lives Matter, like, you're taking in millions of dollars. And a lot of this is money from people, from foundations. One of the things that we have to kind of wrap our heads around in terms of like that amount of money. And that's just, that was like, somebody told me like within like, that was just like from 2010 to 15 or something. Nobody knows what has come in after that. Like, you don't get to like not have a board and not have any employees and not talk about the millions. Like, I don't know how we kind of, and then for us to call your name, you can say Black Lives Matters, but you really need to say ADOS Matters or ADO. Like, you can say that, but like, I don't know what you all are. I don't know what anybody is watching Alicia Garza or Patrice Cullors or any of these people for, because they haven't done anything. They have for the last few years, there is no body of work that includes them. The Futures Lab, this Black Census Project with the skewed data is not enough for you to be anchoring yourself in this moment like you created it. And like, but if nobody calls it out, then it just is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. So let me go to my next call. I am going to I got two of them. Going to 814. 814, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Dwayne.
Hey, Dwayne.
From Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing great. So I've been following you for several years after studying some other groups. But anyhow, I'm calling this evening because I'm joining the knowledge of ADOS.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly Operation Takeover.
Mm-hmm.
Joined the NAACP. I'm the vice president in my area.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. You're the vice president in your area. Good for you. Shout out to you for doing the work. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
All right, so this evening we had a meeting, virtual town hall meeting, and President Joe Biden was on, and Ed Gordon was moderating the meeting, and we had Congresswoman on. But anyhow, Joe Gordon asked him about reparations.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he pressed him a little bit, and he finally said he'll agree to reparations if we include Native Americans.
If we include who?
Native Americans.
For what?
For reparations. They have to be included in our reparations.
No. That's let me just say this. That's a non-starter. That's what you call a non-starter. Let me tell you why. Native Americans do all, and shout out to y'all. I have nothing against you, but you do all kind of stuff, and there's an Indian American Bureau and all kinds of stuff, and you got these little what they call reservations and all this stuff, and you never go to whenever the Native Americans go to Capitol Hill, nobody ever says, well, we'll do it as long as you include the Negroes. No, what's good for the gander got to be good for the goose, baby. So I'm gonna let you finish up, fam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to plug that in. But I'm a first-time caller. I'm doing the knowledge of ADOS. It's
Thank
hard
you, fam.
in this area because it's like America, predominantly European.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of European allies are part of the organization, and changing the language or upgrading the language to ADOS. It makes sense to them, but they're the oldest. We're the oldest organization, civil rights organization.
Absolutely.
So it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, family. But shout out to you for doing the work. Shout out to you for doing the work, fam. I appreciate that. Shout out to you. Thank you, fam.
Appreciate your good work.
No, appreciate you. Shout out to you. That's Project Takeover right there. We said everybody's like, well, I don't want, that's too hard. I don't want to really take over my institutions. Well, they are the institutions. You have to like put together a revolt. It's easy to take over. Ain't nobody in there. That's Project Takeover. That's what it was. That's what it is. I don't know what everybody else is doing. Child, everybody at home talking about we gonna go to war. We ain't down with that. We go to if you don't sit down, you and your club foot. Anyway, I'm going to the next call. I'm going to 470. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Is this me?
That's you, fam.
Oh, so okay. First time caller. My name is Efron, aka Hive Mind Militia. I'm in Northeast Georgia. I was calling just to give my opinion on the Oprah special that was on.
All right.
I didn't watch the first part live, but after I saw Nicole Hannah-Jones, shout out Sandy Darity, and the clip on Twitter, I wanted to go back and see the full discussion.
Okay.
Because I'm very suspicious of some of these high-profile elitists who come into these advocacy spaces and start to pick up the language and kind of miss the message. It's always kind of like a one step forward, two step back with them. So, when I was watching it, one of the things I just wanted to throw out there was, Nicole Hannah-Jones, she shouts out Sandy Darity. She talks about the need for reparations, but rather than linking that to the bottom caste that ADOS is experiencing, she immediately goes into talking about how we have progressed into the middle class, how we have made progress in education. So it shows a disconnect. It feels like she's undermining her whole argument, what she just finished saying the previous 5 minutes before, because she's sitting there talking about how there's this huge wealth gap that we need reparations, but she doesn't connect the dots that, there is no black middle class, as we have seen through the data that Tone Talks has been showing us all this time. Hardly, you can't even really call it a class distinction.
Yeah, because what's kind of like, remember, I don't know if everybody remembers what she's talked about, like the black ascension. Like she said, it's kind of like we ascend and we are, and it's just kind of like, like if you're making progress, like why don't you just speed up the progress instead of do reparations if you're making progress? What the data shows us is that we're not making progress. Same unemployment, no wealth, less land. What it shows you is that that's not progress. Like that's not group progress. When you're stuck to the bottom, it's kind of like the Kerner report. You've been made into a caste, and that's a caste system, and that's no progress. So I understand what you're saying. You can't say one thing one way and then say the other thing. Like that means you're kind of speaking with a forked tongue. No, you got to say no. This is not progress, and we can't exist in these conditions. Just is what it is.
So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm a huge fan of you and Tone, Sandy Darity. I love all the work that everybody is out there doing. It feels, like you said, it feels like a family. It feels like home. Before finding ADOS, it's like, you're wandering alone and you're yelling at the TV because, it's nonsense coming on. And, finally having some place that you can connect politically with people and be on the same page. It's a godsend. It really is. So
thank you,
keep
fam.
up the great work. We riding with you. So
appreciate it,
that's
fam.
all I got.
Appreciate it, fam. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a family, fam. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what a tribe's supposed to be. I don't know what we got off on with all this. Would you get yours? I'm gonna get you get mine. I'm gonna get you get yours. I mean, what? That's not how we supposed to be. We ain't supposed to be like that. Where'd you learn that from? Who raised you? Anyway. Let's go to the next call. I am going to 6467 because I have two 646. 6467. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Is that me?
That's you?
Hi, is that me?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Hi, Yvette.
Hey.
I would like to just appreciate you and all you've done for us. I'm so happy that after discovering you, I hit the ground running. I brought a friend just on God. I discovered you, sick of the dog, March, on my birthday. And
my birthday's in March.
Come from school, and just the YouTube thing, and then called a friend, was like, listen, we gotta get these tickets to go. Anyway, so I don't want to go off on that track, but I did bring in one. So I brought in one person, not knowing enough, because I started reading. So I'm trying. Got down there, went to what I call the ADOS house, like a frat house. I was hoping you'd come through, but the short lady, I don't want to say the wrong thing. The short lady that spoke at the next day, I don't know her name, but she looked out for me, and I wanted to really thank her on that. Anyway, so listen, Yvette, I'm from Lowndes County. Okay. Or I should say my family's from Lowndes County. Okay. I'm from Montgomery, and a lot of Alabama people. I'm glad about that. But I want to share this with you when you started talking about family. So my mom, right? Her mother. I'm trying to say this politely. There's a sheriff called Jesse Coleman, right? So
take your time.
Jesse Coleman was also,
I said take your time.
In Lowndes County? In Lowndes County, there's a sheriff called Jesse Coleman, right? And so Jesse Coleman was also the superintendent of schools. So Jesse Coleman was also a card-carrying member of it. So he would, for fun, chase down black girls. And so they all knew, right? So they all knew and they were afraid. So they would hook up, right, and walk me there. So I'm only sharing this with you for a reason, because I'm talking about black life, right? So my grandmother was one of his victims, and so so she was one of the. So then the sheriff, see that, talking about Lowndes County, right? Lowndes County. I'm just sharing black life and how we need reparations. It might be a tangent, but I thought I had to share about family, generational racism, how that really looks. And so my grandmother's first man experience was with Jesse Coleman, and she wasn't the only one, because he was the sheriff and the superintendent. And what he did for her, for that experience, was to go to the teachers and tell them, make sure that the boy child never went hungry. While his son killed Tom. What is Tom? I can't remember. They did a movie about it, and got off, of course, because he's a sheriff. He killed a black civil rights leader. Lowndes County is the 47 miles of the Selma Walk. The bridge, the actual Selma experience, with my family is a point of contention with them, that they were only in Selma for 3 miles, but the 47 was Lowndes County. But everyone talks about the Selma to Montgomery March. That's just a point of contention. And Haynesville, this is where my family is from, has no. I just want to share this. Has no hospital, pharmacy. They have one doctor that runs the entire Lowndes County. And, I'm concerned because Montgomery has to go to Birmingham if they need ventilators. And so where's Lowndes County supposed to go if they have no hospital, no doctor? You understand? No grocery store, food desert, doctor desert. One doctor every week or once a week to see, from geriatrics to pediatrics, if you understand, and you talk about hookworms. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
And one more thing. And my mama, because her brother was a product of that, she injured her leg and was scared of the same thing, and it just runs. Anyway, I thought I'd share that.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take care.
And let me just say this: y'all ain't got to be so nervous when you call in. Just take your time. Slow down. Take your time. We all here. We not going nowhere. But shout out to her, what she was saying about the rape, the dude who used to chase down the girls. He was the sheriff and all that stuff, and like a product of it was somebody in her family, I think, and then, like, they don't have no beds in the hospitals, and then you got to go to the next hospital. I saw something about Montgomery don't have no beds with the COVID. Said they was on down their last bed or something in Alabama. And we ain't like the COVID done gone away. I went to the grocery store. I always wear my mask. The last time I went to the grocery store, like 2 weeks ago, had my mask on. 90% of the people had their mask on. This time, I went to the grocery store, and about 70% of the people had their mask on. It's just going down and down and down. Like, everybody moving like they done found the cure. You better keep 6 feet, though, around me. Anyway, going to the next call. I am going to... Going to 832. 832, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey.
This is Michael. I'm calling from San Antonio.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. First, I want to, give you, thank you for your movement and all you've done so far as far as black leadership. You and Tone. Tone is a bad man with those statistics and that research.
Them charts. He messed up a chart.
Very impressed with you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
A couple of questions. The first question I wanted to ask is ADOS, because I was on the web, I've been on the website. I mean, I've been kind of following ADOS for a couple of years because I am of slave descent. My family is traced back 7 generations in this country. So we did that very early on in Tennessee when I was younger. So we know our family lineage. So my question is, first question is ADOS a combined movement, lineage, and political party?
That's a question that you have? Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. ADOS is who we are. We're American descendants of slavery. Slavery as the institution. The political project of ADOS is reparations to pay the group that has been plundered. That's the answer to the question.
Right. Because, I'm just saying, because, like I said, when I read on the website, it says that you and Tone are the founders of ADOS, right? And so I'm like, okay, so if I'm ADOS by that definition, and you're the guys that are founders of ADOS, then if I attach myself to that designation, then technically I'm part of your group. You understand what I'm saying? So it's kind of confusing as if you're saying, well, reparations is the movement, and ADOS, and this is what I'm saying as far as clarity, because from what my understanding of ADOS is it's a lineage, people, American descendants of slaves. But then if it goes into something like, well, our movement is reparations, perhaps some ADOS, I'm not saying that this is the case, but perhaps some ADOS, but perhaps I don't, and I want to give myself that designation. Perhaps I don't want to move in the direction of direct reparations. Maybe I want to do something. Maybe I would rather have something like other types of black infrastructure for
build, King.
descendants of slaves.
You can build, King. Build what you want to see. If that's what you want to do, then you can say, I'm a direct descendant of slaves and I'm going to build something different than what Yvette and Antonio are doing. You can absolutely do whatever you want to do. You're a free person, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying as far as, because I was listening to Rick Machine on the same thing, and this is why I kind of like, in the beginning, when a couple of years ago, I think it was around 2018, ADOS was kind of really popping off, and I've been going back and forth to your channel, Breaking Brown, off and on for a few years now. And, I'm a conservative. You know what I mean? I used to be a liberal or I had conservative views, but I considered myself Democrat because that's what our family always did. But now I'm like, look, I have a family. My wife's in the middle. We have conservative views. A lot of this stuff that liberals support, open borders and so on, I don't support that. And then I see a lot of blacks, 88% of blacks voted for Hillary.
When you called in you said you had 2 questions. What's the next question?
Okay, so my second question is, do you believe as a black race that we should put all of our voting power in one party?
Thank you, Carla. I'm gonna answer that after.
Nobody else-
I'm gonna answer that after you're gone because you're taking up too much time. And it's not only that you're taking up too much time. You keep asking questions that I've answered, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to nobody, but it's disrespectful to like kind of babble your way through this. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I've answered all these questions about what ADOS is, and like, do you think we should put all of our votes? And that's answered in like Democratic down ballot, and I've answered all of this, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. You know, I think I was kind of patient there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time with 10 other people on hold, kind of walking you through it. You're going to have to do some work on your own. So I'm going to the next call. I'm going to 804. 804. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
What's up, Yvette? This
What's
is
going on?
Marcus. I'm calling from right outside of D.C. in Virginia.
How you doing? What's going on?
I'm good. I've been trying to call the last few episodes. I'm glad I got through. So first, I want to say, like, the groundwork that you're doing with like your book club is really helpful. I'm a teacher,
Okay.
and you really shape some of the opinions of the students in my classroom. So even though, like, the movement that you and Tone are doing, I feel like you guys should be at the forefront, and other people are, but the work you're doing is working a vet.
Okay. Thank you.
I have kids in my classroom who now have a totally different perspective. There was a girl who stood up the other day when we were talking about these protests. She talked about how our lineage, like, because they were white kids talking about how, like, basically this doesn't matter. People can work hard today, and, like, you know, why are black people doing this? And she said that what we learned in class is that in Virginia, people came here, and all the wealthy white people got all the good land, and that's on the eastern border of Virginia.
Okay.
And all the poor people were pushed out into the Appalachian and into the mountains. And she said it's still that way today, and that's white people. So you can't sit here and say what happened hundreds of years ago doesn't matter today. So, Yvette, the work you're doing is working. And my one question for you tonight is, I feel like sometimes we're living in a bizarre world, like everything is upside down. The people who should be at the forefront of certain things aren't, and people who shouldn't be nowhere near certain things are at the forefront. So, if, like, you take, what's that Hispanic politician's name from New York City? You did an episode about her.
Oh, Ocasio-Cortez, I think was her name.
Yeah, I don't agree with her views on an open border, but she does seem to represent her district well. And, like, people hate her because she represents and talks about working class people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you feel personally with your movement and everything that you do? How do you feel about seeing some of the people you see at the forefront of this movement? And that's my question. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
And I just want to hear you answer that.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I'll answer that for you. Thank you for calling in. No, I personally, like, as like me as an individual, I just realized so much of this, like, it matters, but, like, they're not going to get elevated like they think they're going to get elevated, because ADOS is the gasoline. So to me, it's just kind of like it's a waste of time. Like, it's not even like, oh, are you personally affronted? Everybody wants credit, some credit. Y'all should want credit, like, for everything that you do and everything you build. On some level, we're human. But, like, for the most part, it's just wasting time. I just view, like, a lot of people at the forefront are just wasting time and energy. Like, in the sense of, you just say all the wrong stuff when you get in front of the camera. And so you just waste a whole bunch of time, and you waste a whole bunch of energy, and you waste a whole bunch of stuff that, like, we need to be said. So to me, it just feels like, I don't personalize it a lot. I feel like it's just a waste. In the sense of, like, but I think we also have to understand a lot of these little shows, it matters, but it don't matter. Like, even if you look at the views, if you look at, like, how it's happening, everything is shifting and changing now. But it is regretful to me that we don't have more people that's just like, this is like my mission. Just what it is. It's almost like I want to have one foot on second base and one foot on first base. I don't want to be divisive, but I want to be pro-black. And it's just like, for whatever reason, and we didn't build life this way, but they perceive like reparations for ADOS as divisive. It shouldn't be. But like, as long as it's perceived that way, and part of the reason it's perceived that way is because we don't have enough people who talk to the media regularly who say, yeah, this is what it is and this is how you do it. They right. You don't have enough people who do that. And so it's going to be considered like an outlier thing until people like normalize it. But let me just say this. Regardless of who's sitting where in front of what camera, we have done more like to anchor this movement than like anything, certainly in my lifetime, in terms of reparations. So all the conversations that are happening right now about reparations can be traced all the way back to ADOS. That's just what it is. So I think that's the way to look at it. But I don't even know what these people are talking about half the time. I'll go on to my next call. I'm going to 646. 646. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? 6462. Is this a certain? Oh.
Yes. Hi, Yvette. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you fine. How you doing?
I'm well. This is Shaw from Brooklyn. And I watched both episodes, the first and the second episode.
Okay.
And I was shocked. I didn't know that Nicole was for reparations. So when she said it, I was shocked. But I was even more shocked when she said Dr. Darity, because I'm like, wait, I mean, like, these people, everybody's getting on the bandwagon now and using Adolf, using their people, using their reference, but not saying Adolf. So it was, I was just shocked. But another thing was that she said 70 years. So I'm just like, and she said it again tonight. She reiterated about reparations again, but then she said, the black wealth or the black economics hasn't grown in 70 years. And then her saying that, it makes me feel like she's now adding the black immigrants in this thing about getting the reparations. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's true or not, but just by her, she repeatedly said 70 years. And if we're talking about 70 years of reparations, then you definitely are speaking about the black immigrants. So, I found that a little off-key. And then tonight, you said, did anyone call for action? Actually, I guess it's Reverend Barber. He said they were doing a June 20th mass poor people march, mass poor people's assembly, moral march on Washington is going digital on June 20th, 2020. So he's calling for that, and that's what they said they were going to do. So I heard you ask that question earlier. My question to you is, what do you think about Charlemagne? I already know what you think about Bob Johnson, but now Charlemagne is going around in all his interviews, and he's calling for reparations. And, I feel like we have a lot of people getting on the bandwagon. Mm-hmm. Also, along with that, we don't have any leaders, and that's what's really scary. Now, when what happened to George Floyd and his family, it was crazy. And, we all came out. The thing is, we don't have a leader to take us to that next step, to demand the reparations. And that's what, what this whole thing revealed to me. Okay, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Ben Hammer, no one. And we don't have our leaders. The NAACP, the Black Caucus, Nancy Pelosi is running the Black Caucus.
Well,
She's telling them, okay, y'all get something together and y'all see what y'all can scrap up, and, we're going to go ahead and do this. But the Black Caucus don't move till Nancy tells them to move.
Well, let me just say this. Like, part of the problem, too, is they won't let leaders lead. Like, ADOS, all of us, chapter leaders, the people, this is really it. Like we are it. Like, whether you like it, I don't care whatever city you in and you lead and you talk to people, we are the leaders. But they don't want us. So we're in a situation where, like, the broader community has rejected, like, its natural leaders, the people who are doing the most fighting. And so now you're just left with a vacuum. right? Because you don't like leaders who fight.
Right.
Like that's like being in a war and not liking warriors. Like you don't want leaders who are really going to really going to get out there and fight that fight that needs to be fought. Well, this is the consequence of that. And let me just say, regarding Reverend Barber, he moves everything back. See, everybody wants to be the king of when King was bringing everybody together at the end and trying to do the poor people stuff. There's no way to know what King would do or what King would think. But one thing I will say is that, listen, Reverend Jesse Jackson tried to do the Rainbow Coalition to bring everybody, and it didn't work, right? And the problem is everybody's going back and trying to just mimic what King did instead of saying this is a different time. This is a globalized place. King didn't live in the world that we live in. We have to build on who King was. And King found his own answers, and we have to find our own answers. Everything I see people doing is intellectually lazy. And they're doing it because nobody will be mad at you doing what King did. But that solution, people have to face the fact that solution may not fit a 21st century globalized America with a cemented caste system of ADOS, right? So you have to understand that what you're doing is mimicry. Mimicry is not political imagination. It's not creative. It's not useful for what we're doing. And I think, people can disagree, but I don't think this whole thing hasn't worked. I mean, we have solidarity without any terms of agreement. It's just solidarity for the sake of it. What are you doing for me? And not just today, tomorrow, next week, next month. Are you willing to give up whiteness? Are you?
Yes. Well, what they seem to have forgotten that at the end, Reverend King started saying that we're coming for our checks.
Yeah, they always leave that out. Nobody's
talking about
that never part. Talk about that. No, they always leave that out. They always leave his reparations theme out of everything. That's just, he was just all about everybody and loving everybody and hugging on everybody, as if that wasn't a part of a serious aspect of what he was doing. So I totally agree with you. But I just, I think like the black people who are moving right now have largely decided that they're going to take pieces of ADOS but lock ADOS out. But if you do that, it just won't work. Like, see, what we're seeing is that if you do it that way, you can try and you can move, but it's not going to work because you don't have the right pieces in place for this to work. You don't have the energy of the grassroots reparations movement, so it's not going to work. So the problem, though, is that you really waste a moment, because this could be a really good moment, a profound moment, and you're wasting it because you're trying to put one little pinky toe out there in the river and leave the rest of your whole foot out and try to call that swimming. That ain't swimming. It's just not going to work, and that's to the detriment of all of us, though.
Yes. Well, I just have one last thing, a little off topic. Bank of America, I seen this article, and I sent it to you in your Instagram. I don't know if you get it, but Bank of America pledges $1 billion to fight racial inequality. And what's so funny about it, some of the money is going to go for them to have vaccinations in our community. No, thank you. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, fam.
And also, what do you think about Charlemagne talking about reparations? Have a great night, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you, fam. That's probably going to be it for the calls for the night after midnight, as usual, fam. So if we didn't get to you, don't forget the June 18th. I think that's the June 18th show. Don't forget the June 18th call-in show. If we did not, that's June 18th. That's next week, I think. Today's the 11th. Now it's the 11th. It was 10th. Don't forget about that. But she asked me what I think about Charlemagne. It's helpful that you've kind of picked up on our talking points, I guess. But like, what happens with somebody like that is a lot of times, like, you get into these things and you just use it for yourself. So when I say that, I mean, like, why are you talking to Rush Limbaugh? Rush Limbaugh has said so many racist things, and he's disingenuous. But I really feel like for Charlemagne that this is part of a rebrand, as opposed to like a sincere movement. I feel like he's trying to kind of rebrand himself from hip hop and just a music space to a very political space. The problem is there's a lot of work that goes with that. I could not talk to you if you wanted me to talk about 21 Savage, if you wanted me to talk about half of the people who are in hip hop right now. I could not do that, not intelligently. Charlemagne could, right? So you know, the work that I would have to do if by some transformation I had to work in hip hop media would take a while. I would have to listen to a lot, do a lot, and learn a lot. And I don't think I haven't seen that Charlemagne understands that there's serious work and serious reading that he would have to do to be in this space. And you can't be in this space without saying ADOS, because ADOS brought you here. And I don't mean brought you here in terms of we laid out a carpet for you. I mean brought you here in the sense of you have used all of our talking points to get there. But none of that matters in terms of where you got if you really being sincere if you don't say ADOS. Because that's the only grassroots movement. And that's everybody here in the chat and people who didn't get to watch, who got to work. That's all of us. So it doesn't work if you don't do that anyway. And it doesn't work if you're just trying to go to Limbaugh and your friend Tommy Lahren and you got all this weird stuff going on with these conservatives. It doesn't work that way. It works when you stand on the square, you stand for your people, and that's what you're gonna do. That's how it works. All this other stuff is just silliness. And it makes no sense. So fam, that is it. For the show. Please do not forget, like I said, I already mentioned the call-in show, but do not forget that on July the 30th, that is the book club show. We will be doing the book club. Do not forget about that. If you wanna donate, go to donatebrown.com or patreon.com/ycarnell. Also, for free, you can hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel for me, right? All that's absolutely free. Subscribe to brown.com. Please make sure to hit that bell and hit that subscribe button, fam. And we will be back. We will be back. So keep it easy breezy, fam, and have a good night and enjoy your rest and finish your libation.